Coming up on Mountain News this morning, Perry County took part in Mayday protest as Kentuckians voiced their opinions on the presidential administration. Plus, it might be time to get your real ID if you have plans to fly domestically. But first, find out what you need to apply.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Caroline Mueller.
And I'm Megan Dusmall.
The time is now 5:59 and today's date is Friday, May 2nd. It's been a pretty warm week so far, a little bit of rain here and there, and a big weekend for horse racing fans. What can we expect for this Derby weekend?
Of course, well, we're going to continue on that warm trend today. However, the Derby weekend is going to look a lot cooler. So looking for maybe a sweater being brought out for some of you out there. Here's a look at those current temperatures. We're sitting in the 50s and 60s. Now, tomorrow morning will be much cooler. I mean, we're going to talk 60s at the highest, but for the most part, still looking at the 50s. Then as we head into the afternoon, temperatures will be warming up into the upper 70s and low 80s. Again, another warm day. And by the time we head into Derby weekend, high temperatures will be in the upper 60s. Definitely a drop from these 80s that we're seeing today. Live pinpoint Doppler radar, nice and clear. We've had a very busy week of rain and storms, and that is no exception for today. So don't let the clear radar fool you. We have those rain chances starting up around the afternoon that will continue into the evening. Here's a little look at the next 12 hours. We'll hit the high temperature around 3 o'clock, and those rain chances will really ramp up as we're heading into the evening. Caroline.
Megan, thank you. People from all over continue to voice their frustration with the current presidential administration. Yesterday in Perry County, folks gathered at the Daniel Boone Plaza for Mayday protest, which also appeared in cities across the U.S. Mayday is known as International Workers' Day, a day historically sought to improve working conditions. Protesters shared how recent funding cuts for some federal programs frighten middle and low-class families.
I am distressed at the direction our country is moving. It's moving toward government by the rich, not by the people, for the people, by the people. But if people have a lot of money, it causes injustice because they're allowed to tilt the law in their favor and away from the common people.
Protesters say it is important to exercise their right to protest so that their voices can be heard. And as we mentioned, thousands of people in other states also protested on May Day. Union members and immigrant rights advocates gathered in downtown Los Angeles demanding accountability from elected officials. In Phoenix, protesters took aim at President Trump's policies targeting immigrants, federal workers, and diversity programs. And in Chicago, protesters marched from Union Park to Grant Park, calling for an end to deportations and worker exploitation. The government is responsible for the largest chunk of all job cuts so far this year. From the beginning of the year, U.S. layoffs of almost 602,500 have been announced. Of those, almost 281,000 were in the federal government. According to a Challenger Gray and Christmas report released Thursday, U.S.-based employers announced plans to cut more than 105,000 jobs in April. 40,000 of last month's job cuts can be attributed to plans tied to two major employers, UPS and Intel. Higher prices are on the way for a few online shopping vendors. It's because of a tariff exemption for Chinese imports ends this morning. Some experts say it probably kept your shopping cart down even as the trade war heated up. Amy Kiley reports on today's change.
Even very, very cheap items are now being tariffed.
The era of Americans buying ultra-cheap products from China might be waning. As of this morning, a tariff loophole is closed for Chinese imports worth $800 or less. That's due to executive action from President Donald Trump last month.
It's a big scam going on against our country.
Here are the new tariffs for Chinese imports in the affected price range. An item sent via the postal system carries a 120% duty or a $100 fee. On June 1st, the flat cost option rises to $200. An item shipped another way likely faces Trump's 145% tariff hike.
Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
Chinese e-commerce giants Shein and Temu say they raised prices a week ago to prepare for the loophole's end. Temu's website uses the label local warehouse for items it says aren't subject to duties. Amazon says it considered showing how tariffs affect prices on its low-cost Amazon Haul site. After a clash with the White House, it's backing off that idea, but not backing off potential price hikes.
When you have a low margin business, you don't have as much wiggle room to deal with tariffs, and you have to pass that on to consumers more.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The Real ID Act was passed in 2005, and you might need one beginning next week. Officials saying getting a Real ID in Kentucky is not mandatory, but starting May 7th, it will be needed if you want to get on a commercial domestic flight, get inside a military base, or into a restricted federal building. To get a Real ID, you do need the proper documents like your birth certificate, social security card, and proof of residence like mail.
There's nothing worse than going someplace to get what you want and being told, no, you need to come back and make another appointment. And, that's not satisfying for anybody, and it's certainly not what we want. We want them to come in informed and be successful.
Some areas in the Commonwealth are seeing long lines to get their Real ID, and Eastern Kentuckians might have to drive a good distance. Officials say making an appointment is key. In his Team Kentucky update, Governor Andy Beshear highlighted new overdose information that we first brought you on Wednesday. The governor shared overdose deaths dropped for the third straight year with a more than 30% decrease in 2024 compared to 2023. The biggest improvement was among Black Kentuckians, where overdose deaths fell by more than 37%. A total of 1,410 Kentuckians died from overdoses last year.
But what we're seeing here ought to give everyone who's worked so hard to get to this point in law enforcement, recovery, or treatment, a hope that we can do even more. And we owe them a big thank you for all of that work.
Fentanyl and methamphetamine remain the two most common drugs found in overdose deaths. And good news for employment in Kentucky. In his briefing, the governor said Kentucky's job market fully rebounded from the pandemic. Two separate surveys show the number of people employed, number of jobs filled, and overall civilian labor force is at the highest point for each of those metrics since the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics started keeping records. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman is encouraging Kentuckians to take small steps toward better health through the Our Healthy Kentucky Home Initiative. This month, the focus is on women's health. The Lieutenant Governor is urging women to prioritize their well-being by scheduling regular checkups and screenings, keys to early detection and prevention. The initiative aims to make healthier living more accessible and attainable for all Kentuckians. Road conditions are improving following recent flooding, but officials say caution is still necessary. As of Thursday morning, just 32 state roads remain closed, 20 due to high water and 12 because of mudslides or rock slides. That's a big drop from the more than 550 roads closed at the flood's peak last month. Bridge inspections and damage assessments are still underway. Drivers are urged not to pass barricades or drive through standing water. There's a historic new hire at Morehead State University. Jessica Harris will become the university's first female police chief. Harris is an MSU alum. She served as interim chief since last September. Only 2 other women have led a university police department in Kentucky history.
All is clear this morning, seeing no rain across eastern Kentucky. However, this afternoon we'll start to see chances for rain ramping up, in this evening seeing some storms in the forecast. High temperatures for the day are going to be warming up, but as of right now, we're already starting off to a warm day. I mean, look at that, 50s and 60s. Not as warm as yesterday where we saw those 70s, but still a warmer than average day as we're normally in the low 50s. Here's a look at the forecast highs: upper 70s and low 80s. We'll hit this around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then start to cool down once the rain joins our region. Here's a look at that catnap forecast. Caroline Mueller's cat, Sarge, is the cat for the week. It might be a good start to your day, seeing no rain in the morning and temperatures are nice and warm, but as those rain chances approach, those cats might not want to go to sleep. Caroline.
Well, I think I may be a little biased, but that might be the cutest cat I've ever seen. Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Parents, pay attention. Up next are what some experts call the safest kind of car for new drivers.